Today we are going to be multiplying and dividing integers again. However, this time we're going to end up having to evaluate some expressions. So when they have the words evaluate, that means that we want to substitute some numbers into an expression. So I'm going to take this a, value of a, which equals -4, and I'm going to put it in place of the a in the equation below. And so when the 7 is right next to the a, that means that we're going to multiply. So it's a -7 multiplied by -4, and then we're going to end up adding the c value. C is -16, so I'm going to substitute that in place of that c value. So I put some parentheses around it just to show that that's -16. And I go ahead and multiply first. So remembering the rules from yesterday, let's just go ahead and take a quick moment here to write down some of those rules. So our rules for multiplying or dividing, both are the same rules. So if it's two negatives being multiplied, or two positives being multiplied or divided, when we multiply those, it always equals a positive. However, if it's just one negative, or we have the negative sign on the other side, so one negative and one positive, no matter where it is, whether we multiply or divide, it's always going to equal a negative. So remember that rule. So -7 times -4 means the opposite of 7 groups of -4, which is going to be positive 28, plus -16. So we end up having to subtract these two numbers. So we end up with 12, and the reason why it's positive 12 is because the absolute value of the one that's largest, or the absolute value is biggest for the positive number. So it's positive 12. 28 is further from 0 than the -16, so it's going to be a positive 12 as our answer. Again, 6 right next to a means that we're going to multiply. So let's go ahead and multiply the -4, which is what a is, and then minus the b term, which is 7. So here we're multiplying, and we have opposite signs. So we end up having to get a negative number. So it's -24 minus a 7. And so here we are taking away positives. When we take away positives, think of this as the opposite of a positive. So it's -24 plus -7. So we're having to go further in the negative direction. When you take away positive 7, it's the same thing as adding negatives. And so when we go ahead and combine those, we end up at -31. Next one, we got everything to substitute here. We got a, b, plus c. So -4 times by 7 plus the c term of -16. So when we multiply the -4 and the 7, we end up with a -28 plus a -16. Now we've got the same sign, so we end up having to add those two numbers together, and we end up all the way at -44. And so this next one, this fraction bar here means to divide. So it's the same thing as saying BC divided by A. And so I'm going to go ahead and substitute. So I've got 7 times by -16, and then I'm going to divide by the A term, which is -4. So I follow what order of operation says, which says work from left to right with multiplication and division. So I multiply the 7 and the 16, and I end up with -112. And it's negative because we have more negative, because we have one negative. And the rule is if we have one negative, it's going to end up being a negative. Then we divide by this -4. And when we do the division, 4 goes into the 11, goes in there 2 times with 3 left over. Bring down the 2. 4 goes into 32. 8 times. So the number is 28. There's 2 negatives, so it's going to become a positive. It's the opposite of 112 divided by -4. The opposite of a negative is a positive. Well, let's take a look at some word problems. You've got some on your homework tonight as well. So let's see what the first one says. As Randy swam underwater, his elevation changed steadily for 4 minutes. So elevation changed for 4 minutes. So it's going down and it's changing every 4 minutes. Altogether, so this is a total amount right here. So whenever you see the word altogether, that tells us that that's as far down as he went. The total amount was -20 feet. What was the change in elevation during each minute? Okay, each minute tells us that we want to end up dividing, because what we want is we want to know how many feet he went down per minute, or each minute. And this per, or each, means that we are going to divide the number of feet by the number of minutes that he ended up going down, and so, or swimming for. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what our division problem is going to look like. We got 20 feet, and we're going to divide by the number of minutes, and that's going to give us the number of feet per minute. And so we can go ahead and do that division. We end up at -5 because there's one negative there, so he's changing 5 feet, going down 5 feet each minute. So the -5 represents, again, going down 5 feet each minute, or per minute. So again, the -5 could be represented as going down 5. Down 5 is the same thing as -5. Marie withdrew. Withdrew means that you're taking away. So that's a minus sign. So whenever you see the word withdrew, think minus. Withdrew the same amount of money from her savings account each month for 5 months. So each month for 5 months. All together, okay, we have another total here. So this is going to be a total. Total, she withdrew $300. So withdrew, let's go ahead and write that number down. Withdrew means -300. And she did this, again, for 5 months. She withdrew the same amount of money, but altogether it was $300. What was the change in Marie's savings account each month? Okay, so savings account each month. When you see the word each, that tells us that we have a division problem. So the amount of money each month, or sometimes you're going to see the word in place of each as per month. It means the same thing. So basically we're going to divide the amount of money by the number of months. So that's our formula that we see. So when you see the word each, think of division. So -300 divided by the number of months, 5 months. Do the division, we get -60. So -$60. So what that means is, it's the same thing as saying withdrew $60 each month. So you can either write the answer as a -$60, that would be, or -$60 per month, or you could say use the word in place of that minus sign, which is withdrew $60 each month. A small company had a profit of -528. It's kind of funny saying the word profit and then seeing the minus sign, but basically what that means is they didn't make this. They were negative amount of money. They're in the red, and so they owe money, actually. And so if this continues, the same profit each month for 4 months, what will the company's total profit from that amount for that 4 months be? And so if this continued for each month for 4 months, so notice that if it continued the same profit each month for 4 months, since we're going for 4 more months, we need to find out how much it's going to be after that. And so after 1 month, it's just $528, but after 4 months, it's going to be more. So that means we're going to end up having to multiply these. And so when we multiply a positive by a negative, we end up with a negative. So it's going to continue being negative. And we do the multiplication, we end up at -$2,112. Or we could say that that was the amount of profit, which means that they ended up decreasing by that amount. And so we'll take a look at the next one. Eva's watch is water resistant up to -15 feet. Mateo's watch is water resistant up to 8 times. Well, that kind of gives it away what we're supposed to do, because then they're going to say it's resistant up to 8 times the depth of Eva's watch, but Mateo's watch, they're asking what Mateo's watch is water resistant to what maximum depth? Well, 8 times further, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to end up multiplying -15 times 8, which ends up making a -120 feet. Or we could say that the watch could go 120 feet under water. Either way would be fine. Taking a look at the last one here, 1 kilogram rock dropped into the ocean would take 37 minutes to reach this depth of negative 6,660 meters. If the rock drops steadily, how far would it fall in 1 minute? Well, 1 minute. Well, 37 minutes it goes this far. 1 minute, how far? Well, this is a unit rate they're asking for. So when we're dealing with unit rates, we're going to end up doing a division problem. We're going to divide. So that's what we're going to end up doing here. Negative 6,660, we're dividing by 37 minutes. And so when we do the division, it does end up going there evenly. And let's see what it makes, 180. So 180 feet down. Because we only have one negative, it makes a negative. So what we can do is say, we can either say negative 180 feet, or we could say 180 feet down. We're down 180 feet. So that tells us that that number is going to end up being negative. Well, those are the types of problems that you're going to see on tonight's homework.